So we might as well get started.
Test, test, test. Oh. Good morning. We're going to get started in 2 minutes, so please find your seats. Well, if they miss the train, I don't know what I can do. But we'll get started in just 2 minutes. Please find your seats. Security, there's hecklers in the front row. Please have them removed. All right, good morning, everyone. Okay, some of you are awake. Great. All right. Hey, first of all, thank you all for coming, and what a great turnout. This is exciting for us because this is the first graduation ceremony we've had since 2019 due to COVID. So thanks for coming out, and this is going to be a big celebration. So again, welcome. Thank you for being here. Absolutely. Right. We have 11 graduates today, which is awesome, too. Yeah. So I know you didn't come here to listen to me talk, so I'm going to try and keep things short, to the point. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. But I want to have a couple of introductory comments. This program, the Adult Recovery Court program, started in January of 2012. So next month, it'll be turning 10. And it started out as a bit of a modest, small program just in Kingman. Over the years, it grew to Lake Havasu and Bullhead City so that we can try and get this court, this program, to anyone in need, anyone on probation that may benefit from the added structure, accountability, and supports. And it's just been a great success. We've had fantastic outcomes over the last almost 10 years. Before our 10-year birthday, this is really just kind of a special ceremony. I want to give a shout out to a couple of people, several people. Our presiding judge, Steve Moss, our county government, Hildy Angus, and the rest of the supervisors. For the first time ever, we have attorney involvement in our recovery courts, and that's phenomenal. So thank you. A couple of the attorneys are here this morning. Thank you both. And if I missed someone, I apologize. My eyesight isn't what it used to be. But we have a couple of attorneys here. And here's why it's important. Because for years we've known about evidence-based practices. And on the national level, studies have shown that outcomes are actually better when you have attorney involvement, because they offer a different perspective on things, but also they add a layer of due process protection so that if there is going to be some significant sort of penalty imposed, and thankfully that doesn't happen often, but when it does, then the client has the right to consult with an attorney privately and contest the sanction if they choose to do so. So we're just really delighted that we have attorney involvement for the first time in the history of our program. So thank you for that to Judge Moss, the county government. That's a huge step forward, in my opinion. So let's get on with the program. We have a guest speaker, a commencement speaker today, and I get a little bit nervous when I introduce her. Not really nervous because she's a friend, but a little bit nervous because there's nothing I can say that will do her justice, and that's Hildy Angus. Yes. Well, wait. That's not going to keep me from trying. So Hildy Angus, if you don't know, is a supervisor for our county, District 2. She was first elected in 2012, I believe, and perhaps most importantly, I've known Hildy just about that entire time. She has always been a fierce advocate for people in recovery. She has her own story of recovery as well, but I don't think I have met anyone so dedicated to trying to get services within reach of people that need it. And her contributions to our communities, her care of the people in our communities, in my opinion, is unmatched. It's fantastic. Some of you may know there is a treatment center in Bullhead City with her namesake called Hildy's House. I know at least one of our graduates today is a graduate of Hildy's House, and there's been just a ton of success for women in recovery because of that program. So with that, like I said, it's my pleasure to introduce my friend, mentor, someone that I respect immensely, Hildy Angus.
I'm a little shorter here. Good morning. What a turnout. I think the first time, we used to call it drug court, but it was in recovery court. It was probably about 10 years ago, the first time, and it was just probably an eighth of what is out here today to graduate and celebrate, and it makes me so happy. This is my favorite event that I get to come to, not only as a supervisor, but as a person in recovery, and we'll get to that in a moment. You know, I'm reading from a script today because I know that time we have a lot of things to do today. I was asked to kind of keep it short, and I don't want to kind of go off the rail because I have some things to say to the people who are graduating and the clients who hopefully will be graduating soon. So, again, my name is Hildy Angus, and I'm the elected county supervisor representing District 2, which is all of Bullhead City. But today I'm going to introduce myself the way I do in other rooms in this county. My name is Hildy, and I'm a grateful alcoholic addict. My sobriety date is November 15th, 2006. I have 15 years of continuous sobriety, and I do the work to protect that every day of my life. But I knew I was an alcoholic since I was 12 years old. And the first time I tried to get sober was when I was 20 years old in 1979. I know a lot of you weren't even born then, and I'm assuming you can all do math, so you can figure it out that it's been kind of a long, crooked road of recovery for me, with periods of sobriety followed by still worse relapses, as it says in our big book of Alcoholics Anonymous. And I'm not going to tell you my war stories today. That's not my purpose. My purpose is to tell you that you can change your life, live your dreams, do remarkable things by taking advantage of the opportunities you are being given here in drug court. And the only thing you have to do is stay sober one day at a time. Sounds pretty easy, huh? We know it's simple. Easy? We'll see. My first experience with recovery court, again, it was called drug court back then, was in California. My stepson, who was then about 23 years old, had been arrested on a felony drug charge. He was not a bad kid, just a slave to his addiction, like all of us were. He made it through a very grueling program in California, and I watched him grow and change and become the man he was always supposed to be, just by doing what they told him to do, what the judges told him to do, what the courts told him to do, and what probation told him to do. And he stayed sober. Today, almost 18 years later, my wonderful stepson, Bill, has a family, a successful business, and a life of purpose. He's a respected member of the community. I attended the last graduation here, I think it was 2 years ago, and I came to honor the graduates, but also to hear my dear friend Corky speak. Corky has 48 years sober. Would you stand up, Corky? If you don't know Corky, this is a great man. You know, I get a lot of credit for things in recovery, but this is the man who really started it all in Mojave County, especially Bullhead City, and I want to thank you personally, Corky, for everything that you've done. I don't know if everyone knows, but in Bullhead City we have an Alano Club, and Corky started that, and he started a lot. So I suggest, if you want to know how to stay sober and be a good man, a respected man in Alcoholics Anonymous, you speak to that man. And as I was sitting out there, that was 2 years ago when I came to hear Corky, and I was sitting there like you. I think I was sitting like right where you're sitting, okay? I'm sorry I'm pointing. And I was just coming as an observer. I wasn't speaking. I wasn't graduating. But I was facing this podium, and I was looking over here at this dais. As a county supervisor, this is where I do my job in leading the county. That year, 2 years ago, I happened to be chairman. And the chairman is the big cheese that sits in the middle there. And it said, Hildy Angus, chairman. And as nutty as this sounds, I started thinking about that chair that I sit in. I was sitting where you are today, amongst other alcoholics, my people, other alcoholics and addicts who are just staying sober one day at a time. And I was looking over there, at that seat over there. And at that moment, I was just another garden variety drunk, which is what I call myself, because that's what I am. I'm nothing special, nothing more, nothing left. I am a garden variety drunk. And I wondered, sitting over there, how I ended up over there. And the space between that chair and that chair is the story of my life. So I realized at that moment the only thing separating me from sitting out there as a client, hopefully as a graduate, but as a client of recovery court, and sitting over there is a drink or a drug. That is the truth. If I pick up, I will lose everything I have worked so hard for. So that is why my sobriety always comes first in my life. It has to, and I seriously, seriously protect it, as I pray you do as well. After all these years, I can tell you from personal experience that is the first drink that gets you drunk and the first drug that gets you high. And it never, ever, ever leads to anything good. If I picked up a drink or a drug today, I know without a shadow of a doubt that I will not be in that chair tomorrow. I don't know what chair I will be in, but it will not be a comfortable one. You see that big guy over there that's not looking at me? That guy's my boyfriend, Dave. He has never seen me drink. He has never seen me drunk or high. Because if he had, he wouldn't be my boyfriend anymore. I am that bad. So I protect my sobriety. When I got sober this last time in 2006, I had a moment of clarity where I had to decide if I wanted to live or if I wanted to die. That is a terrible place to be. I was lucky. I chose life. I chose to ask for help because there is no shame in asking for help. I went to a 28-day rehab in California because in 2006, there was no treatment homes here in Mojave County. Let that sink in. 15 years ago, there was no place to go in Mojave County. And I was lucky because I could afford to do it. That rehab saved my life. And I swore that if I ever could, I would make sure that if a woman woke up and chose life over death, there would be a place for her to go to in Mojave County. Today, I'm pleased to report that there are, I think, at least 5 terrific treatment centers, several sober living homes, and transitional housing on its way. In 2015, I met an amazing woman who would help me fulfill the promise I made to myself. Her name is Sheryl De Batt, and she is the president of WestCare Arizona. And along with a lawyer named Darcy Downs Volbracht, we started on a mission, and it became more like an odyssey, to bring a women's treatment home to Bullhead City. And as a team, we did it. In 2020, before the grand opening, the CEO of WestCare asked me, well, he actually told me that they wanted to name it Hildy's House, which was and is the biggest honor of my life. Today, women from all over are recovering from a seamless, hopeless state of mind and body and regaining control of their lives and regaining their spirit. Because I am sober, I get to give back what was so freely given to me. That is the reward of sobriety. I get to do important things. I get to live a life of purpose. You may not believe or understand this now, but you who are either graduating or in the program, you're the lucky ones. You're giving a chance to remake your life. You are also blessed that you are now in the Mojave County recovery community, because I'm telling you, it is fantastic if you take advantage of it. It has been my experience that most people these days, they understand addiction. You know, when I was coming up in the 70s, it was still talked about in hushed tones, but we're lucky because everyone understands that it's a disease. What they don't understand is not doing anything about it. There are so many agencies, support groups. I see them here today. Chris, there's so many people out here whose sole purpose in life is to help you. And they understand what you're going through, where you came from, and they will help you become the man or woman you are meant to be. You just have to be willing to ask for it. I'm so proud of the graduates today because I know how hard it is. Our stories are not the same, but our common experiences are. We are connected by a bond that is so strong that whenever you call a person actively in recovery and ask for help, whether you know them or not, they will come and help you. You can call me. I will come and help you. That's my job. Most people will never understand that. Most people search their whole lives for that kind of bond and connection with people. That's why today, when I introduce myself, I say I am a grateful, recovering alcoholic and addict. So I want to wish all the graduates, and hopefully soon to be graduates, good luck. Please make good choices and aim high in your dreams. My hope for you is that you end up in the chair you work for, not the chair provided for you. I can't promise you it will be easy, but I can promise you it will be worth it. God bless you all.
Hildy, I can't thank you enough, again, not only for your kind, thoughtful words today, but for your ongoing support of this program and the people in it. So thank you. I heard this theory a few years ago that it takes 10,000 hours of work to become an expert in any given field. It takes 10,000 hours of effort or work. And listening to Hildy and looking at Corky, I thought Corky might be an expert in recovery at this point. But I'm bringing this up because our graduates, and don't take this the wrong way, none of you are experts in recovery yet. You haven't put in your 10,000 hours. But I think this program certainly has you on the right track, and you certainly have a lot of hours in with respect to recovery and treatment. And I wanted to just point out, I guess before I do, here's what's going to happen next. I'm going to say a few more words, and then Judge Gordon is going to come up here. He's going to introduce some phase promotions, some of them planned, maybe a surprise or two. The phase promotions will come up, and we'll welcome them and offer a round of applause, and they'll get certificates. And then he's going to have his graduates come up one at a time with their well-crafted, well-prepared speeches. I'm going to come up after that, do the same for Bullhead City. We've got some promotions, phase promotions to take care of, and then 2 graduates. And then we've got the closer, Judge Gregory, who will finish with Lake Havasu. But again, before we do, those of you that may not be familiar with the program, I just want to sort of talk about what this certificate of completion, what this graduation means. By the time someone is ready to graduate this program, they have spent countless hours in court talking to us judges, sometimes happy occasions, sometimes some difficult or uncomfortable conversations. They have met with their probation officers, probably more than they want. No offense to the probation officers. They have spent countless hours in classes, groups, treatment, working on their recovery, trying to find their way. My point is this graduation really means something to our graduates. They have put in a ton of hard work over months, if not years. And so again, this is just a great day for the graduates and for all of us. And so I just wanted to underscore, every once in a while, you don't hear this argument too much anymore, but when this program started, not everyone supported it because some people say, lock them up and throw away the key, and this is soft on crime. Drug recovery courts are not soft on crime. They're smart on crime. And truth be told, recovery courts are probably the toughest form of probation anyone can be on. It's intense. It's a lot of oversight. It's a lot of accountability. So this has not been a cakewalk for any of you. You've worked really hard to get here. So enough of that. It is my pleasure to introduce maybe one of the newest members of our bench, and certainly a new member of Recovery Court, Judge Gordon. I've always been impressed with Judge Gordon's, in my opinion, a proper mix of intensity and compassion, always intellectual and thoughtful, and has just been a great asset to our recovery court programs. And as you and Kingman know, there's been a change in case assignment, so now you get to work with me. Sorry. I don't make the rules, okay? But anyway, Judge Gordon has been just a fantastic supporter of Recovery Court and the graduates that he's going to be presenting today. So Judge Gordon, come on up.
All right. Thank you, Judge Williams, for those probably overly kind words. I appreciate that. I have been told that you guys don't want to be here very long today, and I don't know why that would be, but because of that, I'm going to try to keep this as short, sweet, and to the script as possible. So to start with, I was notified that I need to give some people some promotions, because some of you have been working really hard, and some of you probably should have gotten it a week or two ago, but it was held for me so that I could have at least this one more moment with you. So, to that end, I have 3 individuals that I need to come up, and that is Mr. Quintanar, Ms. Cruz, and Mr. Firo. All right, so let me have you take this and step over there so they can get a photo with you. Congratulations. I'm a little disappointed because
I can't wear no hats here right now.
that's fair. That's fair. All right, Mr. Firo, here you go. So each of these participants is earning their next phase promotion. So they are no longer in the order that I sent them in, but nonetheless, we have promotion from phase 2 to 3. I believe you are at this point going from phase 3 to 4. Incredible. And already, Mr. Firo is going to phase 5, which seems insane because, Mr. Firo, I don't feel like I've had you in here that long. But he has, I don't want to get too much because each one of these deserves a whole lot of comment. But Mr. Firo in particular has been swimming from day one, and I'm always impressed. So if you want to get a photograph of my 3 if you haven't already, you do that now. All right, so the interesting thing about taking over what was drug, now recovery court program is that, you don't start with new people right out the gate. Frequently you end up with, can you hear me now? All right. Frequently you end up with people who are at different phases of the program already when you take over, as Judge Williams took over for me here recently, and he has people who are ready to graduate today and those who are much further along the process than others. Nonetheless, there are individuals who, when I took over, were well on their way and they graduated, and only recently have I had some of the first people that started with me graduate. That makes today particularly special because the majority of people graduating are those who started when I had taken over already. It is awesome to see the progress that has been made. There are a couple of individuals, some of the first couple actually, who started with Judge Williams to begin with, and then for different reasons got transferred up to Kingman. So I'm going to try to keep comments short generally, and just move at this point to say, Ms. Amador.
Yeah, I think so.
All right.
Oh my gosh, okay. I'm a little nervous, but it'll be okay. All right. When I reflect back on my life and think about all the trials and tribulations, I often ask myself, if I could go back and change anything, would I? Addiction has always been something that was in my life, even before I knew what it was. Growing up at a young age, my parents got divorced, and my brothers and I went to live with our mom and moved to Lake Havasu City, while our dad stayed in Colorado. My mom was an alcoholic for as long as I could remember. I remember she used to ask me to go grab her beers out of the fridge so my brothers didn't know how much she was drinking. I was too young to understand that I wasn't just helping her get something to drink. My older brother eventually caught on, and they would argue about it. My dad moved to Havasu to be with us when I was in 5th grade. Looking back at the pictures from the time he moved to Havasu, you could tell he was on meth because of how skinny he was. But still, I was too young to know what was going on. The first time I ever tried drugs, I was in 6th grade, and me and my best friend at the time went in her dad's closet and ate pills that ended up being Xanax. After that, I tried alcohol, then weed, and I eventually moved in with my dad because I was now old enough to realize how my mom was killing herself with alcohol and didn't want to watch her slowly die. Living with my dad was so different. His house was always clean, and I remember asking him if he was gay because his house was so normal. My dad worked 2 jobs and was barely home that much, which gave me a lot of time to do whatever I wanted. One night, I double dropped 2 ecstasy pills and tripped all night. I remember my dad calling me in the morning, asking where I was, so I told him. Usually, he would get mad if he didn't know where I was, but for some reason, this time, he didn't seem to mind. When he picked me up, the vibe was off in the car, ride was silent, and I assumed we were going home. Instead, we went to my brother's house down the street. I was confused but didn't really ask much. When I walked in my brother's house, it was dark and his wife was on the couch crying. I walked into my brother's room and seen him in fetal position on his bed crying. It was the only time I've ever seen my brother cry. I didn't have to ask. I knew my mom had died because it had been a long time coming. Although you can't really prepare yourself for the loss of a parent, it was expected because the doctor had told my mom if she didn't stop drinking, she would die. She never stopped. I remember last time I saw her, she was in the hospital. My dad had took me there after school. I was in the room alone with her, crying, of course, because she was dying, and she looked at me and asked why I was crying, because she was in such a vegetable-like state. After my mom passed, I was 16 when I tried heroin for the first time. Mostly in high school, I would just drink, smoke weed, take Xanax, and do ecstasy. I ended up getting suspended from school twice, from snorting Xanax in the bathroom with friends, and the second time from smoking spice in the bathroom. When I was 17, I ended up getting in a relationship with my kid's father. He had just got out of Adobe, but was clean, had a job, and he rapped, so I thought that was hot. He lived right across the street from me, and we very quickly began hanging out at his house every day when I was out of school. He was seeing a counselor who would come to his house weekly. One night I was there when his counselor came, so I sat in and listened. I don't remember how it came up, but he came right out and admitted he was trying to get me pregnant. I remember being shocked at what he had said. His counselor told me to be careful, and his mom told me to run while I still had a chance. Of course, being young and naive, I ignored them and all the red flags because I was in love and nobody was going to tell me. Just a month or 2 into our relationship, he started becoming controlling. I never hung out with my friends anymore because my friends were whores just like me. One night, I wanted to go home, and he went into the kitchen, grabbed a knife, and said if I left, he would kill himself. So, of course, I stayed. We started dating July 16th, 2012, and I found out I was pregnant October 2012. So it took 3 months before I was pregnant. When I found out, my dad was disappointed and blamed himself for always working. I considered my options: abortion, adoption, or keeping the baby. I hadn't a clue what I was going to do until he told me he thought we should keep it because he wanted to be the dad he never had. So my decision was made. He became more verbally, mentally, and physically abusive while I was pregnant. He ended up cheating on me while I was pregnant. That was the first time I was ever really depressed. He ended up going to jail near the end of my pregnancy, which was normal because he'd been in and out of jail since he was 12. I gave birth to our son, Cade, without him. He got out of jail when Cade was 4 months old and met him. I ended up taking him back, but now his mom had moved to Prescott, so I went up there to stay with them for a couple weeks. While I was there, his mom came home drunk one night, and she flipped out on him. They got into an argument, and she ended up pulling a knife on him, so he body slammed her, and she knocked out. We left in the middle of the night in a foreign town while it was snowing and called the cops. Me and my son went to a hotel, and I called my dad. Landon was still 17, about to be 18 in a couple months, so CPS got involved with him. When my dad came, it somehow transpired that he would go back to Havasu and stay with us. He continued cheating on me and being abusive in my own home. After a while, he convinced me to pack all me and my son's stuff and move to Prescott to start over because I was doing heroin behind his back and he found out. So we moved to Prescott and my dad came home to an empty house. He called me crying and I felt terrible. I isolated myself from my family. The only people I had in Prescott were Landon and his mom. We stayed at his mom's house for a while until he got 2 jobs and we got our own apartment. There wasn't much to our relationship other than sex. I went to the doctor one day to get on birth control, and when the doctor came back into the room, she told me I was pregnant. I cried and told Landon I hated him and walked out of the building. I felt alone and scared to be pregnant again, especially without the support of my family. Landon worked nights, and one day I don't remember what caused the fight because I've tried to forget most everything that had to do with him. But one day, all day, he was beating the crap out of me and being psycho. So I eventually just told him what he wanted to hear until I took him to work. I packed up all me and my son's stuff, called my grandparents, and they picked me up at 10 at night. I stayed with them for a couple days before I went home. During the trip to Havasu, I got car sick because I was pregnant, even though I didn't tell anybody. First thing my grandpa asked was, "Are you pregnant?" I didn't admit it, but I was. After I got home, it only took a couple days for Landon to follow me back. He started doing heroin, and I moved into a place with him. My dad found out I was pregnant by someone in town. I was working full-time supporting us while I was pregnant, while he was getting money from CPS and taking my car to go pick up drugs in Cali. When I gave birth to my daughter, he was there but got high in the bathroom the whole time. Not long after I had my daughter, I started getting high with him, and that's where my addiction came into play. One day, I got so fed up and went and showed my dad all the bruises all over my body, and I finally left him. It took me 4 years to finally leave, but I was left with all this trauma and started shooting heroin and smoking meth daily. It didn't take long for my dad to catch on because of the track marks on my arms and a 360 of personality change. I would get arrested, swear I was going to stop, then get out and get high. I was in jail for Kate's first day of kindergarten, and for some reason my dad told his teacher what was going on with me. When I got out and went home, I started using again. One morning, I took Kate to school and wasn't high, but his teacher called CPS saying I was acting weird and on drugs. So CPS got involved. I got kicked out of my house since I was using. I was homeless for about a year until one day my dad picked me up for my weekly visit. My dad was going 10 miles over the speed limit. We got pulled over, and I had a warrant for my arrest, so I got arrested. My dad found my needles in my purse after he got home, and he called the cops, and I got child endangerment charges. I was in jail for 63 days, got sentenced to drug court and probation. Didn't take me long to start using again, and drug court told me to go get on methadone. When I heard it was an opiate, then I was down. The day I got on methadone was October 31st, 2019. It was Halloween, and at the end of the night, after trick-or-treating, I realized how much it helped, so I'd be sober a month, then relapse. Drug court sent me to rehab in December. It was my second time there. I got out, stayed sober a couple months, then COVID happened. I didn't have class or drug testing, so I started using again. We had drug court over Zoom, and I told the judge the truth, so I had to go to rehab again. I never told my dad anything. I just packed my stuff, and when my ride came, I said I have to go to rehab. After rehab, I was told I wasn't allowed to go home. I had to go to sober living here in Kingman. So I did, because I didn't have a choice. I got kicked out of the first sober living and went to Havasu for a week because my probation officer was out of town. I relapsed and went on a week-long bender. When I came back to Kingman, I got into the recovery house I'm at now. I remember being so upset with myself that I messed up the 4 months clean I had. I thought I would never get it back. With a lot of encouragement from my probation officer, drug court, my family, and friends, I slowly started believing in myself for the first time in a long time. Today, I have a little over a year clean, and I never thought I would be able to say that, let alone do it. Out of everything I've been through in my life, losing my mom at 16, being in an abusive relationship, getting sober and staying sober is the hardest thing I've ever done. So to answer the question from the beginning, if I could change anything, would I? I wouldn't. I believe everything happens for a reason, and I am very hopeful to say I'm breaking the cycle of addiction within my family. And then I put shout out to Joe DeBacca, Jason, Kelly Winston, Judge Gregory, Judge Gordon, my friends, and most of all, my dad for never giving up on me, even when I almost gave up on myself.
Certificate for you.
Okay.
So certificate.
Starbucks.
And you also get.
Thank you.
You gotta get a photo of you. Absolutely. If it wasn't obvious in that speech, It's a long journey from where you start to where you end up here, and one of the names mentioned in there was mental health, and the addressing those traumas is not to be underestimated. All right, at this point, it's time for Ms. Batt.
Okay. Okay. Growing up as a child, I had a stable, loving home. I had two parents that would have given me the entire world if I wanted it. I was set up to do anything I set my heart on. When I was 15 years old, I ran away from home and met a guy that I was with for 2 years. Within that 2 years, I was not only mentally, emotionally, and physically abused, but I lost any and all authenticity I had about myself. To escape the heartbreak from it, I began to run. I ran from any and everything that loved me. I ran from my family and any friends that I had. I got lost in the streets and began to learn about an entire different world that I had never known. I saw and experienced things I had only seen in movies. It was all fun and games until I met someone who decided to introduce me to the needle. The next 3 years were a blur. I caught numerous charges beginning at 18, and finally at 21 I caught my first felony. I did 10 months in Vegas jail and got extradited to Mojave County Jail, where I was put in front of Judge Sipe for my felony charge. Luckily, he gave me a chance and put me on supervised felony probation, which I completed in half the time, because after doing so well on it, I petitioned to be early terminated and he granted it. I did really well and stayed clean for years. I ended up getting pregnant and having my son at 23. My relationship with his father didn't last more than a year and a half. We did nothing but drink and fight, and I decided I had to leave. Shortly after the breakup and taking care of my son for months by myself, I began to feel inadequate and like a failure. The last thing I wanted for him was to grow up with his two parents separated, because that's what I had, and I knew I wanted different for him. I allowed that disappointment to overcome anything else important and began drinking and using. Sorry. Okay. And eventually stopped going home to my parents, where my son would be. I was so ashamed and exhausted of everything going on in my life. I stayed gone, and I promised myself I wouldn't go around him high. So I saw my son maybe 10 times at most in almost 2 years. I didn't realize the damage I was causing just from thinking I was doing the right thing and staying away. In the meantime, I ended up getting in some trouble and running from it, literally. I wouldn't stop running, no matter the cost, no matter the consequence. I was scared. I was terrified to face my son, my family, my problems. I knew the guilt and shame I had been running from would be so bad it would feel like the death of me. Finally, the house I was living in got raided, and I was finally arrested, shackled, and no longer able to run. I was no longer able to escape my feelings or problems. I felt saved. In a way, I was so relieved. I knew it was time to own up and be held accountable for everything I had done. I was put in front of Judge Sipe for the second time. I found out a couple weeks before my sentencing that I was pregnant, almost 4 months along, and I couldn't stop using. After being offered drug court and accepting the plea, I went before the judge, and he warned me this was my only chance. And if I didn't make it work, he would give me my full sentence of 7 years take my kids, and make sure I never saw them again. I thank God for Judge Sipe every day that I'm alive. It's been quite the journey. I have been a participant on drug court for 2 years and 7 months. When I started this program, I had a revoked license, thousands of dollars in fines in multiple cities. I was homeless, pregnant, and I felt broken as a person, a woman, and as a mother. I knew I needed the help. I had already enrolled into Southwest Behavioral, along with West Care in Bullhead City, and got myself moved into a women's only sober living home. That is where my healing began. I discovered my safe place, my home, and to this day, formed friendships with women I talk to still today. With my new associations in a clean and sober environment, I realized I was surrounded by people who only wanted to see me succeed and learn how to make the right choices in life. I engaged in my IOP class and formed a friendship with my first counselor ever. Her name was Dory. I never thought in a million years I would trust a stranger, let alone allow them to know things I had never told anybody else before. I began believing in this program and knew one day I would be up here in front of all of you, sharing my story so you could believe it is possible. I ended up moving into my aunt's, where probation had allowed my daughter's father, Nathaniel, to live while being on IPS. It was a big decision drug court had to vote on to allow to happen since we were both on high-level probation. I will tell you, although it was good for us to bond as a family, in the end, their fears they had and their rule that they have for being against it was completely accurate. Nathaniel had relapsed shortly after being released from jail, and I had to hide it for everyone's sake, and that only backfired on me. Not only did I relapse, but everyone was convinced I had relapsed first because I was honest about it, which caused him to relapse, but that wasn't the case. He got revoked after being caught with more drugs on him, and I was left alone with my 4-month-old baby. Once again, I was scared, so I did what I do best, and I ran. I felt I couldn't do it on my own, and that my daughter deserved better than anything I could ever give her. And I used that as an excuse to leave her with my parents. I was gone for months because it was right when COVID hit and there was no drug testing or counseling. I had a full-blown relapse. I didn't think I was going to make it. I ended up in the emergency room several times for different things. I decided to reach out to my counselor and ask to please be sent to a rehab out of town. I kept putting it off, but after a week, I ended up finally going. I went to Globe, Arizona for a 30-day program, which I completed and felt so confident and ready for the world by the end of the 30 days. I asked to be sent to Kingman, where my drug court would be switched, and that made me very nervous. But I knew I wouldn't last in Bullhead anymore. I had to relocate to try to fix my problem. Little did I realize my problem wasn't where I was living. It was within myself. After 3 months, I relapsed for 2 weeks. I showed up to my next hearing knowing I was going to jail. The question was for how long. It took 2 people to get me into that car. My mom drove me up to Kingman with me literally screaming out of disappointment and fear of thinking I'd never get to see my kids again. In fear that I'd go in front of Judge Sipe and I'd be revoked with my kids taken for good. When I got there, I couldn't sit still. I got up and I told the truth, regardless of knowing that Judge Gordon and Kelly and Susan were going to be so disappointed in me. Judge Gordon gave me a 2-day sanction in jail. All I remember is Susan repeating Judge Sipe's words to me on my sentencing day. Those were the longest 2 days I had in a long time. I thought I would get out and not even think of using. But the second I was released, I was uncomfortable. I was shaky. I felt this feeling of being uneasy like I had never felt before. My mom's house was a little hectic, so I didn't feel okay being there. I knew at that moment something was wrong. This feeling I felt was inside of my mind. I knew I had to change. I reached my point where I was honest with myself and knew I not only had to change the way I was living, but I had to change my way of thinking. I knew the reasons I kept going back. I just had to figure out how to cope and find healthy ways around my number one trigger, which is my codependency. It's the root of all my problems. I can not only identify my triggers now, the people, places, and things, but I can tackle my addiction head on one day at a time, one moment at a time, but never alone. For me, the key to recovery is to know myself and be aware of my thoughts. Thoughts do not have to turn into actions. There are people out here fighting the same battle that I'm fighting, and we can be in it together. Today, I have 10 months and 16 days clean and sober. I have managed to get my license reinstated. I have a vehicle of my own. I have paid off almost half my fines. I work a full-time job as a painter, and I love my job. I worked really hard and got the rights and custody of my daughter Penelope back. I will soon share joint custody with my son's father, but I currently have him every other week for the whole week. I stay involved with my support system through NA. I chair an NA meeting once a week and reach out anytime I'm in need of anything. I have acquired not only recovery, but true friends, and that's something I've never been able to hold on to. I choose every single day to make the next right choice, no matter how big or small or who's around to see. Numbing my feelings and making selfish, cowardly choices is not the life I choose to live anymore. Every day will be a battle because the urge to use does not go away. Even when your mind is telling you that you've overcome your addiction, it will be right there waiting for the perfect opportunity to knock you down. It's happened to me time and time again. It's up to me to stay focused and determined for a better life and to be a part of the solution, not the problem. I now believe in my heart what my purpose is on this earth, and that is to be the mother my babies deserve, because no one can ever take my place, and I am enough. I want to thank you all for your support in helping me get to where I am today. For believing in me when I couldn't seem to believe in myself. Sorry. For telling me countless times that you saw a light in me I hadn't seen in myself in years. I also want to thank my sponsor, Christina, for being there to hold me accountable, for caring when I felt alone and like a failure, and for remaining the inspiration that's helped guide me along my journey. I also want to thank my POs, Kelly and Morgan, from the beginning, and Judge Gordon and Judge Williams, and all my mental health professionals, Jason, Dory, Bobby, and anyone else I'm forgetting. I wouldn't be where I am today without any of you.
So I promise I won't make this about me, but I do just want to say that having represented DCS and been involved in cases like that and seen far too many parents who lose the right to their kids because they weren't ready yet to address their addiction, Alexis's story in particular, and a few others, is really touching to see that you can turn it around and you can get that family back. Our next one today, Mr. Daves.
I don't know how I'm supposed to follow those two good speeches, but I'll try. When I was 18, I just really wasn't ready to do that thing called adulting. So I'd just rather run the streets with my so-called friends at the time, never going home, always attending parties and hanging out with them, staying wherever I could. And then left my family worrying about me every day, every night, calling me, never answering them. Eventually, during these parties, I tried meth and oxys, and then it was no more partying. It was always worrying about getting high on those. And then I quickly began to make poor decisions and started getting into trouble with the law and stealing things so I could go get a sack from the dope man. And then oxys eventually became hard to come by. So that's when someone told me about heroin, and then that's all it was about after that. My addiction caused me to be someone I wasn't, and someone my family didn't even want to be around. I would get their receipts for stuff that they went and bought just so I could go find that item in the store, steal it, take it, return it, and get money so I could take it to the dope man and get a sack. If I couldn't find it at the store, I'd just go home, take theirs, and return it. People talk about taking their homie's sack and helping them look for it. Try taking your sister's bank card while she's sleeping and think you put it back before she woke up, but you end up helping her look for it. She was pretty pissed and hurt. I'm her big brother. I'm supposed to look out for her and not make her life hell lying and stealing from her. That's an old chapter of my life, but next month I will have 2 years clean from heroin. What opened my eyes was going to jail the last time in January 2020. I sat in there thinking hard about my family and if an addiction was more important than them. I was facing a minimum of 11 and a half years, and with my record, I knew I was going to be gone a lot longer than that. Thankfully, I had a good legal team, and they got me a plea that had drug court as an option. I asked my lawyer to push for drug court as much as possible. Since all my previous charges were committed while I was using, I had a good argument. I went to sentencing with Judge Sipes, which was the drug court judge at the time, and he asked me to give him one reason why he shouldn't max me out with the most time. I read him the letter I wrote him and swore to him that I would prove to everyone and myself that I could do it. He gave me a chance, and here I am graduating drug court. Who would have known that a judge you previously cussed out would still give you a chance in society? Thank you, Judge Sipes. I hope you're proud of the person you helped me become. When I was released from jail, I had a little over 3 months sober, and all this COVID stuff was starting, and I had to enroll in IOP classes, and I chose to go to Southwest because they still had classes in person. I got enrolled with Shelley, went to group shortly after that, and I seen many faces that I got high with, seen how well they were doing, and I instantly knew that I was in the right place. I didn't actually start drug court for a few more months, so I spent a lot of time fishing and going to IOP. Eventually, I got back into softball, started a team with all the guys from IOP. We all had a great time together. I learned many things about myself and the things that I enjoyed doing sober. I'm very thankful for the friendships I've made since I started attending Southwest. Although everyone was going through their own problems, they would always go out of their way to help other people's and hold them accountable. It's more of a family than a bunch of friends. Shelly would be the mom. She always knows when something's off about someone, and she calls them on their stuff. I've learned a lot about myself and about life being in drug court. I know how to deal with life and all the ups and downs it decides to throw at me. There is more than choosing a bag to get high and numb my feelings. It's time to face life head on and overcome all the obstacles. Things have been pretty well as long as I always look for the next right thing to do. I've gotten a great job, my own place to call home, a nice vehicle, paid a lot of my fines off, and even paid all my old tickets so I could get my license back. I can't say drug court got me sober because you gotta want to do that yourself. I can say drug court and the people that ran it, Shelly, Tim, Kelly, Judge Gordon, helped me learn all the tools that I need to maintain my sobriety and taught me how to be a better person. If you are new to drug court and struggling, just listen to these kind people and surrender to the program. They are here to help you straighten your life out because the way you were thinking obviously isn't very good. It's a long, hard fight, but you'll be thankful in the end because of the person you become. Thank you to all the people that have impacted my life in recovery. You know who you are. I appreciate every single one of you guys. Good luck to all the drug court clients, and I hope to see you guys up here soon.
Certificate for it? Photo for Kelly.
It wasn't that great either.
Congratulations. All right, so just one brief plug, and that is something that Supervisor Angus said earlier really rings true when I see Mr. Daves, and that is the fact that this recovery program really does create family, especially with those in mental health together, because I have seen time and again where individuals in the program don't have the money to drug test, and they do throw money to each other to go get that test. We don't want you in trouble with court. And I think it becomes obvious when you hear these speeches just how close everyone is and how they do help each other, and it's amazing to see. And with that, Mr. Marco.
I'm a nervous wreck. I was born in Minneapolis, Minnesota. I was adopted. There was sexual abuse in my childhood. I ran away from home at a young age. I went to prison in my 20s. I left there and I said to myself, I'll never go back. I was married for 20 years. I was extremely codependent. I survived 2 drug overdoses. Drug addiction has followed me all my life, and I'm 60 years old. I have been sober for 14 months. I got to probation in 2018, charged with trafficking and stolen property, and sentenced to 2 years probation. This was very hard for me. I thought I was a good person. Why was this happening to me? I always tried to help people. I didn't know the generator was stolen. And then I had this little drug problem that followed me. So on to probation, and then one day Miss Kelly Winston says, she's going to send me to task, and I'm like, what's that? And she said, it's drug testing. And I said, well, my crime is not drug related, so why would you do this to me? But she was the boss, so we had a very rough beginning. And I couldn't test clean because I couldn't get clean. I was an addict. Kelly mentioned, do you think you might have a little problem? And I did everything wrong for a while. She told me to go to detox. They told me to go home and sleep. I violated probation. I revoked, went to jail twice. And again, I said to myself, I'm not coming back here. And then I was sentenced to drug court. This was going to be impossible. They wanted me to go to group all week, drug court on Friday, UA twice a week. I remember looking at Shelley with tears in my eyes saying, I don't know how they expect me to do all this. And get clean? Well, I continued to use just so I could make it to group. And then there was the boyfriend I had for 6 years. He wasn't going to stop using or support me. So I had to make the choice to get rid of Jimmy. And that was the hardest thing I've ever done. Now I was alone. The day he left, I got sober, 10/10/2020. And from that day forward, my life has been a miracle. Excuse me. I started doing all the things right, and everything got easier and better, and it felt good. I went back to AA because I knew that was my answer. If I had to stay clean, it had to be a 12-step program where I have a sponsor, meetings, the steps, and the tools to stay sober. I'm learning how to live life on life's terms, one day at a time. I don't have to drink or drug no matter what happens. There's no anger or resentments anymore. I have peace. I turn my will and my life over to the care of God every day. Excuse me. And I try to be the best person I can be each day and be kind and loving and humble and grateful. I can be alone and care for myself and be okay, and that's huge. I have a car and a job, and I can pay my bills. My neighbors talk to me. They make it a point to say hi before they wouldn't even look at me. Excuse me. I don't know how many mornings I've gotten up and said, what a beautiful day. I have a newfound freedom, and for that I'd like to thank the drug court team. Judge Gordon, thank you for your support and compassion. Shelley and Tim, I love you guys. You're always supportive. And Kelly, there was times I didn't think we were going to make it. Thank you for your encouragement and support. Kelly was briefly gone out of the office for a while. She sent me a text saying she was back in the office, and I replied, I love you, Kelly Winston. For those of you new to this, stay the course until the miracle happens. Thank you.
You made it. All right, and next, Mr. Garcia. Since you're coming from so far away, I'll just say I'm glad you made it today. When we first started with Mr. Garcia in the program, he missed his very first court day. Showed up after we had adjourned. And then there were a few more times where he may have been sleeping standing up, but I'll let him talk about that.
So today I have a 502 days clean, which blows my mind. Yes, my speech ain't long like everyone else's, but I lived an extraordinary life since I've been doing this probation thing since I was 16, and this is the first time I've ever done it. I mean, I still got years on probation, but it's easy now that I'm sober and doing what I'm supposed to do. So let's start by telling you a little about myself. For the last 20 years, I've been a screw-up. I spent most of my adult life in prison and knowing that I would grow old and most likely die there because that was my life. I got out in 2018 and knew it wouldn't be long before I was back. I lasted 2 months before I was on the run. During this time, I met my 3-year-old son, I fell in love with this mini-me. I knew I didn't want him to grow up without his dad, but it was too late. I had to go back to prison. I thought I would get clean in prison, but my addiction wouldn't let me. I got out with the 20 in my pocket for the ride home, thinking that I'd quit once I got home. That didn't happen. I thought I was going to get a job and to get it together, but that did not happen. I cheated probation and did everything I could not to go back to prison. Before a year was up, I got busted and got new charges. Not one, but 2 new charges. I was looking at another prison sentence. I dragged this court out as long as I could. They gave me drug court. Wasn't sure if I could do it, but anything to stay out a little bit longer. I thought, if Frankie can do it, I could too. And let me just say, I met Frankie in prison in 2011, and it took us a while to get it, but we're both doing great. Well, it turned out I needed some help. After showing up to court, when it was over, and sleeping standing up in court, the drug court team sent me to the White House, me and my son. Be honest, I didn't want to go, but I knew if I would, or it would be the best thing to do if I wanted to stay out of prison. Once I was there, I found structure, new friends, many tools to help me with my sobriety, like CR, NA, and church. These are the things that changed my life. I no longer worried that I would die in prison, that my son would grow up without his dad. I no longer worried that when I left the house, I wouldn't come home for 5 to 10 years, because that has happened twice. And today, I'm a great father. My son plays sports, rides dirt bikes. He does things I've always wanted to do, but never had the ability to do because I was too busy getting high. Today, I'm able to help my mom with whatever she needs. I have a great job, a very great job. Great friends and great programs to help me better my life. I just want to say thanks to Tim and Shelly and my PO that made me feel like I could. Never have I ever had a PO that made me feel like I was going to be able to complete the program. I have to say today I love who I am, and I am absolutely worth it. That was very short, but that's all I got.
Congratulations. Yeah. All right, so without further ado, Ms. McLaughlin.
All right, I'm super nervous. I am 603 days clean. Says, hello, my name is Christina Mclaughlin. I was addicted to smoking meth for 8 years. I didn't realize how gone I was until 2018 when I was so careless and I had 2.8 grams in my pocket. And driving around with someone whose car wasn't even legal in any which way or form. We got pulled over by 2 detectives and I got searched and they found the drugs I had. I was so scared. I thought I was definitely going to jail because not only did I have drugs on me, but my 3-year-old son was in the back seat. I got lucky and they gave me a citation and let us go. I didn't tell my husband about it. I wasn't ready to stop using drugs. I kept using and using. I finally got served an indictment by a sheriff. I started to go to court with Judge Sipe, was my sentencing judge. I finally signed a plea for 2 years of probation. I was still using, not telling my husband the truth about what I was doing. I did not go to sentencing and a warrant was issued for my arrest. I went on the run for about 5 months. I just put my son down for a nap when all of a sudden 6 U.S. Marshals were at my front door. I got arrested for the first time in my life. I started my journey, but once again, I wasn't ready to stop using. I kept lying to my probation officer, John Soma. Then finally I found out I was pregnant. I did good for the first 4 months, then I fell hard. I started using until I had my daughter. CPS got involved and they took my kids from me. That was the day I realized I had a problem. My probation was being revoked, and I had a CPS case. I'm so thankful that I had Shelly from Southwest Behavioral. She helped me through the darkest point of my life. I would sit at Southwest all day, every day, in order to stay sober, and except Fridays, because there was no group on Fridays. I freaked out a little when Shelly told me that. Then Judge Sipe put me in drug court, or recovery court. Recovery court was the best thing that ever happened to me. Kelly, my PO, really made it so easy. She was a big part of my recovery. If it wasn't for Shelly and Kelly, I wouldn't be standing before you telling you my story. I've made many new friends and learned how to cope with all my triggers. Julie Tate has become my best friend, and she helped me through some really tough times. I love you, Julie. Thanks for being such an amazing friend. Being in recovery court has changed my life. I got full custody of my kids back. It only took me 9 months to do that. I never really enjoyed life until I got sober. Judge Gordon, Kelly, my PO, Shelly from Southwest were such a great support and helped me get through this program. So to everyone new in this program, stay with it one day at a time. If you ever need someone to talk to, or even a ride to do a drug test, or even money for a drug test, I got you. I want to give a final thank you for all the support from my family and friends and the drug court team. If it wasn't for my mom and dad, I wouldn't have been able to do a lot of this. My mom would babysit for me every day so I can go to my groups and drug test. My dad helped me pay my fines and even drug tests sometimes, and even cigarettes when I needed some. Thank you, Mom and Dad, for all the support. Thank you, everybody. Thank you.
Congratulations. Yeah, very fancy. All right, well, I think we are making a decent pace, although I probably am a little bit behind. So, someone who's been here almost as long as anyone, and someone who I think probably didn't think this day was ever coming, or maybe didn't want it to, I'm not sure, Mr. Olszewski.
Hello, my name is Ryan. I'm a recovering addict. I apologize, I ain't do the math. 17 days shy of 2 years. I stand here before you to say something. Sometimes it's easy, sometimes it's not. But if you're willing to change and ask for the right help, then it's possible to start your own path of recovery. In the beginning of drug court, I was going to jail every week, every other week, something like that, for 6 months because I was still using. but I never missed an IOP class or court until Wednesday. Then Judge Sipe, actually say it right, sent me to treatment to CBI in Holbrook. It was December 26, 2009. I had fun learning DBT skills, yeah. Thank you. So I do apologize. I got off of work and I came here. After I showered, which I use these skills every day in life. DBT skills is not just for recovering, it's life basic too. I came home January 25th-ish, 2020, and started my path of recovery. After returning, I had a few months under my belt. I did the training and became a peer support specialist, which I put it to use when I can. I also was able to take care of some fines, which allowed me to get my driver's license back, so now I'm actually legal. Now I am an actual father to 1 out of 3 of my sons. I get to be there and watch him grow and become something great and to be better than I could ever have or could ever been. His name is Bishop, and he was born on February 21st, 2021. 5 days later, I ended up getting a job at Shells West, which I'm actually, my uniform. Working at Shells West has been wonderful. Every night I get the chance to learn something new. The pay's good, but it's the point of having a job which you enjoy being at, which a job I'm able to buy whatever my son may need or want. I also was able to own 2 vehicles that are in my name and that no one can take from me. I'm also in the process of getting my high school diploma at 31 years old. My adventure being in drug court, I tell you what, the sober life is hell of a lot funner than the drug life. I take this time to thank the drug court team, Judge Sipe, wish he could have been here, Mr. Judge Gordon. And I'm sorry I didn't get to be in your court. I very much appreciate what they did for me. I appreciate Shelly on her phone for being there for me and always standing behind me. I appreciate Kelly for being there and always being her and always being there in my darkest time and never giving up on me. Look at me now. To all the people, to all the new people or people that are still struggling with addiction, just remember, the darkest hour of the darkest day, there will always be some light of hope.
See, I didn't want to be a real professional, you know, like.
It's been an honor.
Likewise.
And real quick, to the few I did tell and the ones I didn't, I've done and beat my second DCS case.
All right, so I think I only have one left, and probably someone who has been ready to graduate for months now, Mr. Osmond.
All right. My name is Joshua Osmond. I'm a grateful member of Narcotics Anonymous and a grateful believer in Jesus Christ. This is my hope. Let me start by first saying thank you, Judge Gordon. Thank you, Kelly. Thank you, Elaine. I don't know where you are. You're around here somewhere. Hi, Elaine. And thank you, Tim, for all the hard work that you have put into this program and the time you've invested in me. Most of all, I want to thank God for the grace He has shown me. My story starts in the womb of my mother as she loses her battle with crack addiction in LA, July 22nd, 1989. As CPS awaits a clean drug test for my mother upon my birth, I enter this world at 42 weeks, clean from drugs for the first time in my life. I would spend the next 30 years of my life still seeking thrills and struggling with addiction. Whether it was combat sports at 6 years old, yes, I was even competing then, chasing adrenaline, to fights with everyone I could at 8, to incest, pornography, and sexual abuse from 10 to 12, chasing anything to feel good. At 13, I started smoking cigarettes, drinking alcohol, smoking marijuana. At 15, started doing cocaine, ecstasy, and it was all fun and games until 17 years old, I started heroin and meth. 6 months later, I was overdosing at my mother's kitchen table. 3 months to the gate, to graduation, the straight A student turned into a straight junkie. It was here that I was first introduced to AA and the 12 steps, and after attending some meetings, I decided that that wasn't for me. I started injecting at 18 and caught my first possession charge. Since AA wasn't for me, the cause of my heroin problem must be related to my bipolar disorder. So I ventured down that road for a while, trying different medications, seeking different therapy, and decided that I was cured and I no longer needed medication or sobriety. It was at this time that my first son was born. I was given the ultimatum to stay clean or stay out of my son Jack's life. I chose to continue to use. I ended up with an intervention and chose to go to rehab in New York City at the Anchor House because they had a very successful program. The Anchor House was a Christian-based rehab, and after a month, I checked myself out, and I headed home. I didn't need Jesus to save me. Romans 7:18. And I know that nothing good lives in me. That is in my sinful nature. I want to do what is right, but I can't. 1 year after checking myself out of rehab, I finally landed in jail after terrorizing Phoenix for 3 months and robbing a dozen pharmacies. Upon entering jail and looking at a 15-year sentence for my actions, I fell back on the only thing I knew, the program of AA. And I started meetings in my pod a month into my sentence. 6 days after my son's second birthday, I relapsed on heroin in jail. After everything I put myself and my family through, I was still a slave to my addiction. I cried out to God that night and hit my knees and asked for help with the promise to never use heroin again. I've been clean from heroin since April 26, 2011. My story doesn't stop there. Matthew 11:28, Jesus said, "Come to me, all of ye who are weary and carry heavy burdens, and I will give you rest." After this day, God would carry me through a 3-year prison sentence where I pursued Him to the best of my ability. After I completed my sentence, I would reunite with my family and have another child, my son John. I would spend the time after my release working, coaching children's sports, hunting, hiking, all the while maintaining a habit of drinking on the weekends and smoking weed for chronic pain. All seemed well in the outside world, but inside I was harboring secrets. I had been living a double life. At home, I was emotionally abusive to my wife and prone to fits of destructive rage. I was having an affair with a girl from school and living in a web of lies.
I stole every chance I could from friends, family, and customers. All of this behavior started when I started using alcohol and weed, but since I was legal, then all my problems were everyone else's fault. After a couple of years of everyone complaining about my behavior, I divorced my wife and went off on my own so I could live the way I wanted, which was a life of partying with no rules and nobody telling me what to do. It was at this juncture, in August 2018, that I met my equal and fell in love. She was a recovering junkie. She was a mom. She loved to smoke and drink. She never told me what to do. She was just as sick as me. After 1 year of her lying and cheating and emotionally abusing me, I ended the relationship by stealing her Jeep and crashing it through a wall. I caught my third case at 30 years old, and this judge did not like me or my past. After running my life into the ground again, a month after I caught my charge, meth found me, broken and alone, and promised me relief. September 2nd, I relapsed on meth. And 2 weeks later, my ex-wife found me on the bathroom floor of my home after crashing through 4 locked doors with a needle in my arm trying to kill myself again while watching my kids. She did the responsible thing and removed them from my care. My boss, who's my father, found out and did the best thing for me and fired me. My landlord evicted me, and I was back to living in my car while fighting a case. After a 2-week bender, I realized where I was. I had a moment of clarity. I was sitting in a room, looking at 4 blank TVs on cinder blocks in my house. The fucking needle in my arm. I realized what was happening. I flushed my stash, and I ran. I fled town. I ran to Prescott, and I checked myself in to an inpatient detox on 10/2/2019, and I have been sober since. In those 4 short weeks, I realized that I had picked up my addiction right where I left it in 2011. I was powerless over it, and I could not manage my own life. Isaiah 43:18-19. But forget all that. It is nothing compared to what I am going to do, for I am about to do something new. See, I have already begun. Upon my friend Manny's suggestion, in order to avoid my prison sentence, I should enroll in IOP and seek help, and so I did. During my short 3 weeks in Prescott, I was enrolled in IOP. I learned about cognitive behavioral therapy and about my dual diagnosis. And I formed a friendship with my brother Nicholas, who gave me an AA book and asked me to join him at a men's stag meeting that night at church. I was humbled that night as I heard God speak my thoughts through every man that shared that night. It was at this time I decided to give myself over to that simple program known as Alcoholics Anonymous. Romans 8:14, for all who are led by the Spirit of God are children of God. I have been a grateful member of Alcoholics Anonymous ever since. After receiving God's gifts in Prescott, I decided to return home to fight my court case and bring with me all I had learned. I enrolled in every class at Mojave Mental Health, where I met Tim, and I had attended meetings 4 times a week. It was during this time that my jiu-jitsu gym, invited me to fight along with them at a Jiu-Jitsu World League in Phoenix. I was 30 days clean, and I had just quit smoking cigarettes, and I got destroyed. But I gained the respect and support of the Carlson Gracie team, which I still have to this day. After 30 days clean, God decided to restore my family to me. And with some heavy reluctance from my ex-wife, she let me move in with her and our boys. And we started to repair all the damage that had been done. I'm blessed every day that they are in my life, and my relationship with Mira is better than it ever was in the 15 years we've known each other. In June 2020, I was sentenced to 3 years probation in drug court for a non-drug related crime. Blew my mind. Proverbs 3:5-6. Trust in the Lord with all your heart. Do not depend on your own understanding. Seek his will in all you do, and he will show you which path to take. It was shortly after my sentencing that my friend Tim suggested I check out CR. And so I gave it a try. And upon attending worship, I felt God's presence in that room. And I continued to attend and haven't left since. As I continued to work on myself in my first year of recovery through the 12 steps of AA, class at Mojave Mental Health, I started to gain things like self-love, self-respect, self-confidence. My relationships improved at work and at home. I was blessed with the opportunity to start coaching kids jiu-jitsu, and I earned my blue belt that year. Last week I earned my purple belt. With all these blessings in my life, I still felt like something was missing. There was still a God-sized hole in my heart waiting to be fulfilled. So on October 2nd, 2020, after 1 year of sobriety, God put it on my heart to get baptized by my friend Tim and give my life to Jesus Christ. 1 week later, a friend of mine offered to build our family a home. We moved into that home July this year. The blessings are abundant in my life. I have the blessings to sponsor people these days. I have the blessings of serving at my church, participating in people's lives, being an active member of my community. I have nothing to offer, but people think I do, and I don't understand why. But I have the blessing today to be present in people's lives and to watch them grow from where they were to where they are, from where I was to where I am. And although it hasn't been easy, the devil still knocks on my door, reminding me to be vigilant. When I started this testimony, someone had asked me, "What did drug court give you?" Drug court gave me time. Drug court gave me 8 years of my life back. Drug court gave me the time to better myself, and it gave me back my humanity and taught me that there is hope after dope.
All right, and that concludes my part, so Judge Williams. All right. So, again, we have a few promotions, some expected, maybe one or two not expected. And without further ado, for our Bullhead City team, would the following please come down and join me? Brandy Wallace. As they say in comedy, timing is everything. Oh my God, I didn't sign this one. Haley Bell. Didn't sign this one either, apparently. Katrina Shufflin. Bruce. And Sarah. Brandy, how are you? I know, I hate when that happens. All right, so. How are you? Hello, man. Can you take a picture? Congratulations all. Thank you. I'll see you next week. No kidding, right? All right, we have 2 graduates from Bullhead City. Our first graduate has been in the program for a little over 2.5 years, I think, and proves that practice makes perfect, I think. Anyway, our first graduate from Bullhead City, I guess to summarize, has had her shares of ups and downs, and what has always impressed me about her, has impressed our team, is her resilience. She never gave up. She had plenty of excuses to quit, and she didn't. She kept showing up, and she kept working hard. I think I've described her over the, years now, as a warrior, a survivor, and just her work ethic is unmatched. And sometimes I try and give a sports analogy. You've heard maybe stories about how maybe a team is down, but there's one player in particular that just wills the team to win and wills them to success. And I'm a basketball guy, so I can think of games where Kevin Durant, Steph Curry, Steve Nash, Charles Barkley, et cetera, had those games where it seemed like all was lost, but because this one person just persevered, they achieved victory. This is someone, just again, for another cheesy analogy, if you're in battle, you want her in your foxhole. She's a warrior, and her name is Julie Crawford.
Oh man. Hello. My name is Julie Romo, and I can't believe I made it to my graduation day. I just want to say thank you to everyone involved in the drug court program, because after living a hard life of addiction for over 27 years, I am now 472 days clean. My journey to becoming clean and sober was not easy. The chaotic lifestyle I had lived for so long eventually became my normal. I didn't know that there was something better for me out there. I struggled with homelessness, I lost my family, and by the end of my run, I couldn't name a single person that would allow me in their home, because when I had nothing, I would justify stealing from those who were more fortunate than I was. My logic was clouded back then, so I didn't realize how negatively my actions were affecting my peers, or more importantly, my own self. This made it difficult for me to accept my wrongdoings, or that my drug use was the root of all the bad things that happened to me. But after attending groups and treatment, weekly Narcotics Anonymous meetings, and gaining a substantial amount of clean time under my belt, I managed to achieve the mental clarity needed to move forward and make better choices. I am thankful and beyond grateful for the second chance that I have been given. If it weren't for this opportunity, I'd be doing about 12 and a half years in prison, and upon release, it's likely nothing would have changed for me. Today, I am a better mother, and although I can't change the past, I can ensure I am present for my granddaughter and focus on being the best I can for her in the way I should have been for my children. Not only have I accomplished regaining my family's trust, but I have learned to love and respect myself as well. I am more than I ever gave myself credit for. I now have a steady job where I've moved on to become manager. I've obtained my driver's license. I have a place of my own that I can call home. And most recently, I just bought a new car, and I also just got married. These are achievements I only dreamed of becoming a reality when I was using. My life has its ups and downs, because getting clean doesn't automatically solve all your problems, but it's the first step in the right direction. The woman you see standing before you is very different from the person who entered the program over 2.5 years ago. My journey has not been easy. Admittedly, I have struggled and there may be bumps in the road in the future. However, I now have the proper skills to face my problems without having to use mind-altering substances. Thank you so much again. I couldn't have done this without the drug court team, my sponsor, and my family. And to everyone in drug court and fresh in recovery, it's not an easy program. There's going to be ups and downs, good days and bad days, but you know what? You got this. You are not alone. There are people who will help you on your journey. You can do it. Just have faith.
All right. First of all, you get the recovery court coin and certificate and gift cards. Oh, wow. And now we get to take a picture. Congratulations. I struggled a bit trying to figure out what to say about our next graduate. Well, here's the thing. I knew our graduate from a previous case she had in front of me. And I don't know if it was her rock bottom, but it sure looked like it to me. And when she joined recovery court, I didn't think she'd make it. And I thought that me being involved in her recovery court would be a barrier. I thought her own demons would be a barrier. And she struggled at first, like a lot of you do, and like a lot of people in recovery. But, you know, it's kind of a theme, listening to the speeches. There's a hell of a lot of trauma in this room and in this world. And our next graduate's no exception. She suffered. But you know what? There's also just a lot of strength in this room. And again, our next graduate is no exception. She's one of the strongest people I've had the pleasure of working with. At some point, and this is the wall jumper, by the way, those of us at Bullhead City, she entered Hildy's house, did not care for it, hopped the wall, and I think she talked to her sister, who said something like unpanic right now, or gave some great life-changing advice, and she came back. She came back and she completed the program. I often refer to it because it's a chance to plug one of my favorite songs from my favorite bands, but I think that she had a moment of surrender at some point at Hildy's. And again, it's not to suggest that she hasn't had struggles. She had, because life is hard. But God, she's shown so much strength. Her transformation has been amazing. It's been one from, sorrow to hope, one from sickness to health. I've thought to myself, I think I've seen Sheryl perhaps at her worst, at her low point. I don't think I've seen her at her best, because her best is yet to come. And speaking for the team, we're just so excited at what the future holds for her. Sheryl Nair, come on up.
Thank you for making me cry. I told myself I wasn't going to cry, but here I am crying. So, unlike everybody else's speeches, I didn't put my life story in there because I'm still trying to overcome it, and there's not enough time today to talk about all that. So I just wanted to start this by saying thank you to everyone, Judge Williams, Hildy, for one, Bobby from West Care, Probation, Pamela, Leah, my sister, for sure, my sister-in-law, Joanne, Corky, Bridget, the list goes on, I'm super grateful for all of you guys, and I don't know where I would be without all of you. All of the support and love has been my biggest blessing. Recovery Court provided me with so many opportunities that I would have never had in my addiction. It made me accountable, taught me consistency, and provided me with structure. It was a long road from hot mess to sober, productive member of society, but thankfully I had the recovery court team to believe in me until I was able to believe in myself. I look back on how and who I used to be when I first started this program, and I'm amazed to say that that version of me no longer exists. The most important thing I've learned is getting your life together requires a level of honesty you can't even imagine. There's nothing easy about realizing you're the one that's been holding you back this whole time. Learning how to communicate and be honest with everyone around me, and most importantly myself, has helped me grow into the person that I am today. And a counselor once told me that this journey is not going to be easy, but it's going to be worth it. And I never thought I'd be where I am today in life. And for that, I am forever grateful. And my advice to everybody that's new and still struggling, in the wise words of my sisters, would be to unpanic right now. Because it doesn't matter how hard life gets. It doesn't matter if it seems like it's never going to end or you're never going to make it through it. You just have to keep going. You know, you can't give up, because giving up is the easiest thing to do. And it's not worth it if you give up. So, thank you.
Great job. There's recovery court coin and your certificate and a picture. A lot of cameras. Congratulations. Thank goodness we're getting short on time. Otherwise, I'd have a lot of stories to tell about Ken Gregory. Just a real brief overview. Ken and I worked in the same law firm for a period of time before either one of us made it to the bench. And I will just say this, great sense of humor, dry wit, loved working with him, still love working with him. I think, speaking for both of us and most judges, recovery courts are kind of outside of our comfort zone. We're used to sitting up high and wearing a dress and, being stern. And this is a little bit more touchy-feely, but like me, I hope, I think Ken just really embraced the role. And it's been a pleasure working with him on recovery court. I consider him a friend, and whenever we meet, I always learn something new, and he's someone that I certainly trust for sage advice, one of the most thoughtful people I know, Ken Gregory.
Thank you, Rick, for those wonderful comments. Doesn't it feel good, folks, to be together in this room? What a weird couple of years it's been, and it's so wonderful to have such a great showing of people today for this graduation. It feels like a butterfly release when we do these graduations. From our perspective as judges, we just get to witness and be part of this wonderful transformation in these individual lives, and it's so powerful to listen to all of your individual stories and be part of that. And recovery court in particular is a pretty awesome experience from a judge's standpoint. There's a lot of times, as Judge Williams was saying, it can be a difficult job being a judge. You don't realize that until you're sitting up there and you have to decide very critical things in people's lives. With drug court, it's a collaborative effort. You have some support in the decision-making process. You get professionals from all walks of life in the community coming forward to make our communities healthier. And it was just an absolute joy to be part of that for the last 4 years. I will miss it. Hopefully, I'm not sitting on the sidelines for too long. I ended up swapping some things in my docket. Judge Williams has my Lake Havasu City docket now, and I inherited some of his cases in Bullhead City. So we got rotated around a little bit, but I am very fortunate to promote one of the recovery court participants from Lake Havasu City, and also to present a graduation certificate to one as well. Alex Chipman, would you come forward? Alex is being promoted to Phase 4 of Recovery Court. Alex, it took you a little bit to get to this point. An old rough start. And I'll tell you what, it's been an absolutely powerful experience seeing you get to this point from living in a car to becoming a leader in a recovery home and just being an inspiration to so many of your colleagues. So I am delighted to promote you to Phase 4. Thank you so much. And our graduate, Kyle Benthigan, please come forward. Stage is yours.
Like everyone says, woo! Okay. I remember back when I first started recovery court, it happened to be on a day when somebody else was graduating. I have to be honest, until that day, everything I heard about recovery court was negative. I heard nobody completes it. The program, when nobody completes the program, and people told me that I was too old and I've been living this lifestyle for too long to even have a chance. I should just do my time and go back to prison. I don't have a chance. I had my doubts about the program. Watching that person graduate gave me the sense of hope. So fast forward a year and a half, I feel everything has come to full circle. And I'm standing here in front of you doing the same thing he was doing when I started. The first time I was arrested was back in 1989. I was arrested for attempting to possess dangerous drugs. Between 1993 and 1998, I was arrested 4 more times, all drug-related charges. 1999, I was on probation for sales of dangerous drugs, and then I was picked up and got a new charge while being on probation, which was when the judge said that I was at the end of my rope and I had to do 3 years in prison. When I was released, I managed to stay clean for 2 years. And then I met a girl who happened to be doing meth behind my back. That's when I learned how powerful meth is. I said, okay, I'll do it one time. And fast forward 15 years, I didn't miss a day of getting high. I found myself on probation again for a non-drug related charge, but I was on probation. I went to extreme measures to cheat on the test, and I was doing it. I thought I was fooling probation, but they knew what I was doing, and then they threw a hair follicle test at me, and it's not easy to pass, so I failed. Needless to say, they gave me the chance to be in a recovery court participant, so I was looking at 8 to 16 years if I wasn't, so it's kind of like a no-brainer. Give it a try. When I started recovery court, it took a while for me to commit 100% to the program. After a number of positive UAs, the team thought that it would be best if I went to Marina Point. The day I left to go to Marina Point was November 16th of last year. I've been clean and sober since November 17th. When I was at Marina Point, I did a lot of soul searching. I found myself being able to laugh again, and most importantly, I found that I could function without being high. I can't really explain what it was or even when it was, but something during that time at Marina Point, I decided it was time for me to just surrender. I realized that I was 55 years old without anything solid in my life. I finally started to understand that I could have a whole team. I finally understood that I could have a whole team of people on my side willing to help me get better and better in my life. Not only that, they were willing to give me all the tools and resources to accomplish that. I don't really remember what I did wrong, but I did something wrong in drug court, and Judge Gregory made me watch a movie called The Shift. It's more or less a movie about several different people all going through life-changing scenarios. Anyways, I realized then that I was going through the same thing. My life was changing. I'm sure some will disagree with what I'm saying right now, but I feel that, but I don't feel that I was addicted to drugs. What I was addicted to was a lifestyle of using drugs. It's funny that when we quit, people expect to change in a week or two, and they say, you know, that's all it takes. But you have to understand that, like, I was getting high for 15 years. It took me 15 years to get to this point. I'm not going to be able to change overnight. My life's got to change. And I think that's what drug court does, is when you have to go through all these groups that seem overwhelming, you have to do all this stuff. It's actually changing your life, and it's rewiring your life to live differently without drugs. And it does seem very overwhelming when you do all these groups, but looking back at it, it was really easy. I mean, I spent more than 9 hours a week looking for drugs every week. 9 hours a week going to groups, it's really not that much. People complain about all the testing, the drug testing they do, and you know, if you're doing the right thing, it's not really a big deal. I mean, they're only doing it because, let's face it, we're not always honest people, and the tests don't lie, and we all have to be on the same page and work all together to be able to accomplish what we're trying to accomplish. And I want to thank everybody in the court, or Judge Gregory especially, everybody in probation, everybody. I just want to thank you. I did this, we did this, we all did this, and that's all I got.
You talk about transformation. Kyle has really come a long ways. It's amazing to me just to see the health and spirit restored to a person, through this journey of recovery. And you're an entirely different person now than you were that first day in court coming in. It took a little while, didn't it? And it took inpatient treatment in your case as well. And I'm glad you mentioned that you got something out of that video. That's a powerful video. Yeah, it is. It's on YouTube. It's called The Shift, and it's by a guy named Dr. Wayne Dyer. I remember another drug court participant getting a lot out of that several years ago as well. And I'm glad you mentioned that. So Kyle, I wish you all the success going forward in your life. I'm going to now give you your certificate and your drug court coin. Before I give up the mic, about 2014, 2015, I want to say we had just one drug court in this county, the adult drug court I'm using the term drug courts, that's what we called it back then, not because I forgot to call it recovery court. Kingman, and I started, I took over that court. I don't think Judge Williams wanted to give it up to me, but there was a transition and some movement. I came on as a part-time judge, took over that court. Judge Williams eventually went down to Bullhead City, started up the recovery court there. We got the recovery court started in Lake Havasu City. Judge Williams also very busily worked on getting juvenile and adult health and wellness courts started. This program countywide would not be as robust as it is if it were not for the tireless efforts and the dedication that Judge Williams has to this course. I think he deserves a huge round of applause. Thank you, Rick.
Sir, you are going to make me blush. But thank you for that. That was very kind. We're almost done, I promise. A few closing comments. First of all, this program wouldn't be a success without a lot of help from leadership and dedication from leadership. Also, just the hard work of our teams. We would be here another hour if I went through each individual to thank them personally, so I'm not going to do that. But I would just like to point out on the side of the courts our presiding judge Steve Moss, former presiding judges, always supportive of these programs. Kip Anderson, our court administrator, also. On behalf of, on the side of probation, Alan Palomino, the probation chief, has always been supportive of these programs. Susan Davidson, all of the recovery court POs, thank you all. This wouldn't work without you. And then our service providers, our teams in place, their tireless efforts. I've always said this is the best part of my job for a couple of reasons. One is because of the dedicated professionals that I get to work with every week, but then also because of the clients that are working so hard to better themselves and restore themselves. So again, our teams are second to none, and we really, truly are a fantastic program because of them. All of our community partners, also Hildy Angus, of course, again, thank you, and the rest of the Board of Supervisors, because none of this would be possible without all of the support. Couple of comments to our clients who are not graduating today. You're still clients in the program. Hopefully you heard something today that resonated, that moved you perhaps. I would like to say that a lot of you may be doubting yourself. You may have moments or days where you're wondering if you can do this. I'll tell you what, and this is from working this program for 10 years now, you have more strength than you give yourself credit for, and you are worth it. You're worth the battle. You're worth the fight every day. We look forward to working with you. I'll see most of you next week. And we look forward to your graduation someday. The next one, probably late May, early June. I don't know if you'll be graduating then. Some of you will, but in our graduations to come. Bruce, you're there, buddy. To the graduates, I said earlier, it takes 10,000 hours to become an expert at something. So that means you still have work to do. And some of us have said, the worst thing you could do is to start to coast or take a vacation from recovery, because it's kind of like taking a vacation from life. It doesn't work that way. You have to live it every day. So I encourage you to keep working, keep at it. You've done a tremendous job so far. There's still work to do. And to remember the supports, the programs, and the people that helped you achieve this level of success. Don't ever lose sight of those connections. Stay connected, and you will have long-lasting success in recovery. Best of luck to you all on your journey of recovery. Those of you that are on teams, we still have work to do. We actually have a training this afternoon. Susan was kind enough to feed us. I understand she ordered 50 frozen TV dinners, I think. So that was thoughtful. But in all seriousness, if you're a team member, please stick around. Again, that concludes our ceremony, and thank you all very much.